right, everyone. Chief is here, so go ahead.
Greg, when you look at this season, what was missing? What wasn't right?
Well, the injuries had a big effect on the year for sure. It seemed like we were never healthy, and there was a lot of new faces in the lineup and out of the line, like guys like big players out of the lineup. I think that had obviously an effect on a lot of things. I think we were just in between. We didn't score enough. We didn't defend good enough. So our differential wasn't good. Special teams improved over time, but they didn't. It took a while to get going on both ends of it. They ended up, I thought power play ended up 6th in the league, which is good, and then our PK still, was low in the standings in the league percentage-wise. But I thought that it really improved over the last month or so, got better. But like I said, we didn't score enough goals. And, like in the end, you got to score goals, especially, in the regular season. It's so important to be able to produce. And I think scoring got better because the power play got better as it went along.
Greg, do you think the pieces are still in place here to be, a Stanley Cup contender? Or is there some work that's needed on the roster?
Well, I think our core is really strong here, core group of guys. And plus, from the Stanley Cup team, plus adding Falk and Krug to our lineup helps for sure. They're good players. I do believe that we have the core. You always have to tinker and do things and find players in the salary cap era and things like that to make your team better, and Doug's always done that for us and done a good job of that. So I do believe in this team, yes.
Greg, I think there's this maybe misconception that you want to play this Ken Hitchcock 200-foot grinded out game where, this year I've heard you talk about liking the rush and you've given young players a chance. Just how do you blend in the style that is successful, that won you a cup, with some of these younger, newer players who might want to be more up-tempo?
Yeah, well, like I said, you could still do both, and you have to do both. It's just about decision-making and with the puck. And, we're a pretty good team off the rush this year. I think we ended up 10th or 11th in the National League, Hockey League, in rush opportunities. And, and again, we did a good job in the neutral zone too. We didn't turn pucks over like, I preach all the time. I think we ended up 2nd in the league in that category. So pucks did get deep, and I think there was, we did do some good things off the rush. I do believe that you have to score off the rush, or get scoring chances off the rush. I think it's important. I know that we got some speed with some young guys on our team that are good off the rush, and like I said, I preach both. It's about decision making for me, and as players mature and develop and spend more time in the NHL, they're going to get better at that. So I saw improvement. I mean, Jordan Kyrou's perfect example. Comes in, and I thought his game improved over time this year, and he had a real good year in my opinion. And he's a good rush player.
Greg, it's pretty remarkable when you look, since you took over as head coach, at your club's record with and without Oscar Sundqvist. Why is that? What does he bring to the table that allows your team to succeed when he's there?
Well, he's an energy guy for sure. He brings a lot of energy to our team, and he's a role player. Role players are really important on your hockey team. He does a variety of things for us, from penalty killing. We put him on the power play. He does well. I mean, checking line. You can put him with different lines and move him around. But he's an identity player. and they're so important to have. And he was missed for sure.
Speaking of identity, Craig, what was it just for some of the reasons you've already mentioned, like the injuries? Was it just harder for this team to kind of find its identity, the culture that you're trying to have here?
Yeah, I believe so, and I think the injuries obviously were a big part of that. When you're missing Colton Parenko for most of the year, and Oscar Sundqvist and Gunnarsson and a lot of guys. There's a bunch of injuries over time, like different players, but like even just the three guys I mentioned that been lost significant time throughout the whole year, they're identity players for us, and I felt like we're just a little bit in between with what we were, as a team. When I think we've always been good defensively, and we've taken pride in playing good defense, and at the same time, from playing good defense, we scored, and we're a productive team. You look at last year, our scoring was up, was really good, and our defensive play was good. I mean, we could do both, and we're good at it. And we lost that identity this year because neither one was good this year. Like, we didn't score enough goals, and we didn't defend well enough this year.
And not defending well enough. Obviously, rosters evolve over a couple of years. It's a different defense than a couple of years ago when you won the Cup. But as this group is assembled now with this personnel, can you be harder around the net? Is that something that can be taught? Can you get better in that area?
Yeah, you can get better at everything. And I know we lost players, but it's not just on the defense. Defending is everybody. Goalie out, it's everybody. And, you got to take pride in that. It's an important part of the game. And yes, you can improve at being harder at your net and doing different things. And listen, the D-core, there's guys that are big guys that it's easy for them to, push guys out of the way or, be physical around the net. And there's smaller D-core that got to do it a different way.
In terms of your offense, just having that more consistent net front presence, do you have guys on the roster right now that can do that more, or do you need to go out and get a big power forward, somebody?
Well, it's got to be. It's really getting to the net it's got to be on everybody. It's not just we're going to go get a couple net front guys. It's an attitude that we got to go to the net more, and we didn't get enough rebound chances because of that. Shooting pucks, we weren't at the net enough for rebounds and things like that, or get to the net for rebounds and things like that, and that was a problem that we talked about all the time and get our team to do it. So for me, it's just more of an attitude that's where if you want to score in this league on a consistent basis as a player and be a good scoring team, you got to go to the net and get those rebound goals, because that's where a lot of the goals are scored. We all know that.
Craig, were they just subtle differences when you look at that series with Colorado, or do you feel like there were some glaring gaps there?
In terms of them against the team, you mean? The teams?
Yeah, yes.
Well,
Between the two teams.
Yeah, well, listen, they're a very good team. We all know that. But we weren't healthy either, so it's hard to know, right? You're missing David Perron, Vince Dunn. We got a lot of guys out. I'm not going to mention them all. You all know who was out and who wasn't. So it's hard for me to evaluate that with all the injuries.
Craig, you had a unique circumstance, obviously, with Vladdy because he barely played over the course of a calendar year. What were your impressions of the 24 regular season games and playoffs with Vladdy?
Well, he didn't. He obviously he wasn't happy, and neither were we. He didn't. He didn't get going like maybe we thought or he thought. It just But listen, he's been out for 2 years. Really, I mean, it's almost 2 years that he was out and then he's back. So I think it takes some time for sure. I know he scored a couple goals in the final playoff game, but overall, I think he needs to get his legs going again and use his body and just play a harder game down low in the offensive zone and get to the harder areas to score goals.
Do you think after all this injury problems, is he capable of getting back even close to what he was before?
Well, I'm sure, yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows that question. But, you know, like I said, he probably needs more time to get going. This is a big summer for him for sure, from a training standpoint, and making sure he comes in real healthy next year at training camp, and then use training camp to, you know, get everything going again. And I'm sure that, you know, he's going to have, feel good about it, everything coming back next year, and going through a camp and working on his game in camp. And so I think you're going to see a different Vladdy for sure.
Coming off that groin injury, are you okay with him going over to Russia and playing a few games?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Craig, are you able to say what Falk and Bortuzzo were dealing with and if they're okay?
Upper body injuries, and they'll be fine.
How about Dunn? It looked like a couple times like he was close to becoming, being able to play.
Yeah, again, upper body, but, you know, he never felt comfortable to play. So, you know, we never want to put a player in a bad situation, and so he wasn't ready, and he told us he wasn't ready. So that's why he didn't play.
Hey,
Craig, I wanted to ask you about the middle part of the season. It seemed like your biggest slump of the year came when you started getting Tarasenko and the injured players back right in the middle of the season. Is that puzzling to you why that was the case, or was it a case where you kind of had to reestablish chemistry getting those guys back?
Well, I think that was part of it for sure, reestablishing chemistry. Vladdy was out for a long time. We all know that. So I think that, before the injuries, we had a lot of young guys in there, hungry guys that, did a good job for us, playing a role and doing the role work. And then we started getting everybody back, so everything kind of changed. And, when injured guys came back, they didn't play as well as we needed them to play. I think that was, that's a big part of it.
Craig, if there's any positives out of that blue line of yours, did guys like Mikkola and Jake Wallman, did they open some eyes for you as an organization?
Yeah, for sure. I thought they played really well, to be honest with you. I think Mikkola, he came in, he played well, and then we took him out for a while, and then he got back in there. He needed a little reset button, and I thought he performed well again. I was pretty impressed with him overall. He's an aggressive guy, big guy, covers a lot of ice. And he's hard to play against, and I think he did a good job. And Jake Wallman, he finally got an opportunity in there, and I think he ran with it. He used his feet really well. He's a tremendous skater. He's got a real good shot, and it's a different game. It's his first time in the NHL playing significant games and important games, and I thought that he came in and grabbed the rope and took off with it. So it was good to see.
Obviously, Kostin arrived at a tough time in the season. What did you think about him in those two regular season games, and what went into the decision-making whether to play him in the playoffs or not?
Yeah, no, he did fine in the 2 games there. I thought he looked a little tired. I think with the travel and everything in the season he had, he looked like he got a little winded at times, but he did fine. And I just didn't feel, for me that, where we were at, I went with, the guys that I thought could get the job done.
Greg, Ryan O'Reilly's first year as a captain. What do you look for in a captain, and how do you think O'Reilly did in that role?
Well, I thought he did a great job. I thought he got better as it went along the year, and, did a tremendous job down the stretch and in the playoffs, in my opinion. Like, I know that, we got beat 4 straight, but from a captain standpoint, he worked, and he leads by example on the ice. But I thought that he did a great job in the locker room and on the bench of becoming more vocal and preaching the right things, and all the stuff that captains do. I mean, but first and foremost, captains, what do I look for in a captain is just lead by example on the ice is the number one most important thing, and it's hard to find a guy that works harder and competes harder than Ryan O'Reilly.
Craig, as far as a guy like, I know injuries derailed him a couple of times this year, but what does Robert Thomas need to do this offseason? Where does he need to take his game to the next level heading into next year?
Well, I think first is from a training standpoint, getting real good condition this summer. I think that's really important. I think he's got to work extremely hard in the summertime, get himself in tremendous shape, and then come into camp. And I think that's going to help him for sure. I think there's a ton of upside there. We all know that, but he had a tough time getting going this year with the injuries that really set him back quite a bit.
Right, with the way the Canadian border is now, are there going to be more guys around St. Louis in the summer since it'll be tough to get back to Canada?
That's a possibility. I mean, Canada's not a place probably anybody wants to go to right now because of the situation. So they could end up guys hanging around here, being around here. So we'll see. We'll see. I know our guys really like it here, so they might want to stay here in the summer too.
Greg, you mentioned you needed more scoring. There's scoring by defensemen and also the fourth line scoring. They were down closely this year. Just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we always scored by committee here. And we've shown that last year, throughout the season with we had real good scoring last year, and it was by committee. So from the defense out, everybody contributing, and our D scoring was down quite a bit this year, and our probably our bottom six scoring was down quite a bit, and obviously Vladdy had a tough time to score, Jaden Schwartz, and even Braden Shen dried up for a while there. So I think that again, we need everybody to contribute, like both ends of the ice. That's how we play here. We want to play 200 feet, and part of it is scoring.
Craig, I wanted to ask you about the forechecking and just the way you guys, the classic Blues teams, have hounded the puck. And that's hard work, I realize that. Did you get enough of that on a consistent basis this year?
No. We didn't get enough guys that were that whether they wanted to do it or didn't want to do it or whatever the reason was, wasn't good enough for sure. It got better. I thought that the last few weeks before playoffs, our forecheck game really came around, and the hounding part of it, and then the work ethic that's needed. And it's not just the forwards; it's the D too. The D are really involved in all of it too, being aggressive and hammering walls and keeping pucks alive and all that. So I thought it come around. It got better as it went along, but it was not good enough for sure.
How do you get that back next year?
Well, we gotta make sure that we first of all in camp that we're pushing on for it and working on it, and that's our identity. That's a big part of our identity, and going forward, that's we got to demand it out of our players.
Hey Craig, I jumped on here late, so I apologize if you already answered a question about this player, but I'm curious your thoughts on Colton Parayko's growth and just how he's doing overall. Obviously missed some time, came back, and then also just his shooting. Does he shoot as much as you want him to?
Well, his injury is he's gotten better with his injury. I think he's feeling a lot better, and hopefully this summer he can really improve that injury and fix it, and so he's 100% healthy next year. Obviously he couldn't. It's hard to evaluate his game this year because of the injury, and he didn't play a whole lot. I thought he got better as the year went along. When he came back, it was tough for him, but he worked through it. And before playoffs and in playoffs, he was playing a lot better for sure. Does he shoot enough? Well, it's hard to again evaluate that shooting this year with the injury. It's hard for me to say, but we do want him to shoot a lot. He's got a great shot, and he has to use it more. And this guy, this player, you know, he's one of the players that can control a game, in my opinion, with his size and strength and skating ability. And that's something that, you know, I think going forward, we got to be talking to him about that a lot, and, you know, how significant it can be for the team and for him. I think that, you know, he wore the A this year as part of the CAT leadership group. I think he did a good job. Again, his injury, you know, it's hard to lead when you're injured, but he's a guy that can go out there and lead by example on the ice, which he does. And, you know, so does that answer your question?
It does. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg, what do you want out of your players from this offseason, and do you change anything, you know, in light of all these injuries in terms of what they do in the offseason, how they train?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think that had a lot to do with how they trained in the summertime or anything like that. A lot of these injuries were just injuries, you know, that happened. So they, you know, we demand guys are, you know, training and get in great shape and be in great shape. We got a great strength coach here, does a great job, and you know, guys like working with him. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think guys will come into camp in great shape next year, and they'll be hungry and ready to go. Nobody's happy about getting beat out 4 straight, and you know, so next year they'll be hungry.
Greg, what did you make of Jaden Schwartz's season, and was he playing hurt here down the stretch?
Well, it was a tough year for him for sure, from an offensive standpoint, you know, not producing, and he wants to produce and we need him to produce, but that didn't happen. Now, he gives you everything he's got on the ice, hard worker, extremely hard worker and competitive player and real good team guy. He had injuries this year. He was banged up a little bit down the stretch for sure, but nothing that keep him out of the lineup. All right, guys, thanks.